further ado, I will pass it to Enrica, and I hope you enjoy the session.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me well and see me well? Thanks. So thank you so much, Alex, and thanks to Bridge for Billions for this opportunity. I started as a mentor for Bridge a couple of months ago, and I see actually that my mentoree is connected, so really happy to see him there. And yeah, as Alex said, talking to her and exchanging about how social impact-driven initiative can be better addressed, we elaborate together, and we have the idea to share my experience, which is not an experience coming from business, coming from companies, but as you will see, is a completely different experience, and to build something together. And we ended up within this webinar. So welcome to everybody. And actually the idea of talking about this, about how there is a better way to have impact and to provoke a positive social impact in the community with your business comes to me after a perception that I had when I started looking at how business, how enterprises can have a positive social impact. This was relatively new for me, and it was new because till last year at this time I was still doing I was still on the roads of the Central African Republic doing research and investigation on human rights and the conflict dynamics over there, because this is what I was doing as a lawyer and as a researcher. But at a certain point I realized that after so many years, almost 15, working with NGOs and international organizations, I needed to find a different way to having a positive social impact, a way that was not still completely depending on the classic model of philanthropy, a way that could bridge in some way private and public sector. And this was extremely important for me to overcome the challenges that the classic model of charity was presenting over and over, especially in the context where I used to work, mainly in the Central African region or conflict and post-conflict environments. So I started having a look on what our enterprise can have a positive social impact, and I realized that there was actually a different focus, a different approach that kind of clashes to my way to intend positive initiative, because this is what I was doing with humanitarian program, with research. I was trying to provoke a positive social impact in the context where I worked. This thing that I couldn't really fit into my way to intend positive social impact, it was related to the fact that when I was wondering how to generate positive social impact and how enterprise can generate positive social impact, I realized that most of the focus was on the achievement, on the results. Everywhere I was, every paper I was reading, every conference I was attending, every discussion I was having was focusing on impact. The word impact was almost everywhere. How to measure it, which kind of methodology to use, which kind of focus we should have to improve our impact, how we can better address, how we can compare results, etc., etc. And don't take me wrong, measuring impact is extremely important, and we will see why. But thinking to my experience and thinking to the experience that I had in many years of field work, working with vulnerable communities, there is something that for me is even more important than the result, than the achievement. And this is how we get there. So basically, the process to get to to have a positive social impact. And this is what I would like to discuss with you and analyze with you today. How we can change, reverse the perspective to generate positive social impact. How we can switch from a focus on the achievement, on the impact, on the results, to a focus on a process. And this is for me extremely important because it will bring us to make some reflection on how to provoke a positive social impact. They will be extremely important to understand how we can also improve our final impact. So you will see that everything is absolutely interconnected and related. So when I talk about process, I'm talking about a few things that in my experience are extremely important, and I will try to highlight during this presentation and during this webinar. And I really would like to hear anytime your reflection and your experience around this. Alex will help me with the chat, and do not hesitate to stop me, to ask me, or to share your experience with me. The first thing that makes the process on how to get positive social impact so important is understanding what are the real needs of the people that we want to help. So this is the first thing we will focus on, how to switch the perspective from impact to need assessment. Another really important thing I would like to focus on, and I would like to discuss with you, is the fact that sometimes, even if we want to do good, we provoke some negative consequences. We provoke some negative impact for people that we not consider in our assessment, in our analysis. And this is why I would like you to reflect on the unintended impact, on the unintended consequences of the social impact, the positive initiative, the positive social initiative you would like to have. And finally, it is still part of this process, how we can switch from a very static approach that considers the final impact to a dynamic approach that considers human rights and positive impact for the society all along the process. So this is the main point that I would like to raise and try to explore during this webinar. But the basic thing, the thing that I would like you to bring home today is this change of approach, switching from a focus on impact on a focus on the process, from a focus on results to a focus on the people who really make us to have a positive social impact. I will see in the conclusion. And this is what I'm trying also to do with the people I mentor with Bridge for Billions, try to make them reflect on this. So as I'm a researcher, you will learn about this point that I would like to make and explain to you through some stories of the people that I met during my field research and in the field in my year working in mainly in the Central African region. So let's start and let's move to Africa. Let's move to the experience that I wanted to share with you on this. And let me start with a question to introduce the first point. How many, in your experience, when you were trying to launch an initiative with a positive social impact, have you spent more time assessing the needs or assessing the impact? Can you just write on the chat where you have spent more of your time in your experience, if you have some of a similar experience? Okay, needs. Somebody else want to share? Maybe you never had a similar experience, so it's okay, needs, it's good. 50-50. Perfect. Nobody else? Not experience, not needs. Perfect. So most of you spend more time on needs. Well, it also depends where your project and where your initiative is now. I mean, if you are in a preliminary phase, obviously you spend more time on needs. If you're already running your social business, you focus more on impact. But great that you spend more time on needs. So you will be absolutely familiar with what I'm going to say now. And I would like to start with, close the chat for a moment. And I would like to start with an experience from the field, from a city called Bambari in the Central African Republic, which is a country right in the middle of Africa. So in this city, this city was occupied by armed group for a few years. And then after a military operation, the United Nations peacekeeping mission there managed to free the town and to chase the armed group from the town. So there was a momentum. There was a momentum to do good, to bring peace, to bring stability. And what the peace builders decided to do was to rebuild the central market of the town. Why did they decide that? Because the central market was in a very strategic position, was very symbolic, because it could bring together Muslim and non-Muslim population, that there were the two communities fighting each other for a certain period of time. I'm simplifying, obviously, don't tell anybody that I say that, because I think I've been denying that it was the reason of the conflict for many years. So just to simplify here. So they built a brand new central market in town. They did a very nice inauguration ceremony and all this kind of stuff. But then when the market was open, it remained completely empty. None of the people that was supposed to go there and sell things and relaunch the economy of the town was going there. And why that happened? Which kind of reason we can find behind them? Well, the main reason that explained this that there was a very positive very positive initiative with a potential huge social impact for the community and for the population of the town, failed. And the reason that failed is because most likely, people running this initiative and deciding this initiative did not address the right problem. So this, are we addressing the right problem, should be the first thing you should ask yourself when you start a social initiative, when you start a social business. And this is important because problems for any kind of people, for any kind of community are potentially indefinite. You might choose among many different issues, but some issue is much more relevant for certain people at certain point in time. And this is exactly the issue you should focus on. And I'm insisting on this, and as I was insisting on the importance of assessing the needs, because there is a complete change of perspective on this. If you think to the final action, to the result, to the positive impact that you can provoke, you might really want to rebuild the central market in Bambari. But if you think to the needs, then you are going to ask people what they really need. And most of the people, they would have told you that they didn't need a new market. They just need the bridge connecting the two parts of the town, dividing the two communities, to be readjusted, to be fixed, to be able to go around freely and to sell their merchandise, their products everywhere. So asking the right questions, talking to people and listen to people will help you. It will help you in a very positive, in a very consistent way to ground your strategy on needs. And asking the right question is not easy. We all have the tendency to want to validate the hypothesis that we make in our first assessment, the idea, the business idea that we had. And most of the time we ask people, the question we ask people to respond to are based on this, are based on the fact that, okay, do you think this idea will work, etc. So we, in some way, we lost our capacity to listen to people. We are completely overwhelmed of information. We are overwhelmed of studies, literature, expert opinion, surveys, etc. And we rarely listen to people. When it comes to vulnerable community, and you don't need to go to the Central African Republic or to conflict country to find them, the most important things remains listening to people in needs. And it's even more difficult than when you ask questions about your business in general or other issue, because people, the question you make and the answer you're gonna get are probably made, I probably build on your question. What do I mean? I mean that more people, more vulnerable are the people you talk to, more chances you have to get from them the answer that you want to hear, because exactly because they're in need. So you have to be very careful to build your needs assessment on a right methodology. It can be a quantitative methodology. You can do a survey, you can do some questionnaires asking a big sample of people what they think about their current needs. Or you can be a qualitative methodology. You can use a qualitative methodology in structuring your interviews around some key informant and preparing well your questions. But if you do it well, you might be completely surprised. And your initial idea, your initial business idea, your initial idea on the positive social impact might be completely challenged by the result of your assessment on needs. And this is very important, because if you do a good needs assessment, you will be able to define the problem exactly how you do with your business. But this time will be a human problem. So the definition of the human problem is one of the key things that I would like you to focus on when you make your strategy to provoke a positive social impact. This definition will define your entire strategy and will bring you to provoke a positive impact. So will bring you to good results. Without this good definition at the beginning, you might spend a lot of energies on something that was not needed, like the central market in Bambari for the people living there. And this is what I'm trying to discuss also with the people, with entrepreneurs I work with with Bridge for Billions, trying to let them focus on defining the problem, on defining who they want to help and how they can make this social impact. So this is for me one perhaps the most important point in this change of approach, switching from the results, from the impact to the process. In your process of building the strategy, defining the needs is the first step, and as I said, perhaps the more important. Let's move now to the second point I would like to touch today with you, and is the point related to unintended impact. So let me ask you again, what's the first thing coming to your mind when I say the unintended impact? Can you just write it on the chat? Can you just like very quickly, what's the first thing coming to your mind? It's an expression you're familiar with? Not really? Okay. Yes, other people? Collateral damages? Not really? Okay, so good. So let's explore it together. And we will explore it together with another story. You have to listen to a lot of my stories. Reaction of stakeholder, unexpected. Yeah, part of this. Let me tell you a story first. This woman, the woman that you see in the picture, let me click the chat, By the way, the picture is not mine, the other was, but this is from a great photographer from here from Barcelona, Juan Carlo Tomasi. This woman belonged to the Fulani ethnic groups. The Fulani herders are moving from one region to another with their cattle, and they basically every year go from Niger all the way down to Chad, the Central African Republic, and DRC with their cattle, with their animals, bringing them along the Trans-Humance corridor following the rainy season. They do not live in town, they're nomadic, they live in the bush, and they often go around armed because they have to defend themselves and their cattle from bandits, and they also sometimes need to defend themselves from local farmers who do not want them to cross their fields and cross their land. Let's say that in one of the remote regions they cross, can be the south of Chad, Central African Republic, or Congo. There is an NGO who want to open an hospital in the region. They do a need assessment, so they follow exactly the procedure that I was telling you about earlier. And they realize that the best place to open an hospital is the provincial capital. Talk to people, talk to the Minister of Health responsible, they open the hospital, they provide drugs, provide medical care, everybody's happy. But in the hospital, there is not a single Fulani man or women. So the project, the NGO project, has a very positive social impact. They provide healthcare to the population of this area. However, even if their impact is good and can be positively evaluated, they leave behind part of the population of this area, the Fulani community, the nomadic population. And not only they leave it behind, not only they do not see them as a patient in their hospital, but they might contribute to marginalize them. And this is because nomadic community, they're already quite marginalized from the society. They're not considered citizens of the country, even though they were born there, even though they spend a lot of time there. And the fact that they do not have access to other to social services can marginalize them even more, beside affecting clearly their health status and their conditions. So all these stories this story would like to make you think about the fact that when you start your idea of positive social business, where your impact-driven initiative, one of the questions you should ask yourself is about the one of the questions you should ask is are we leaving someone behind? And this is a very fundamental question for your analysis. It's a very fundamental question because your initiative can have a very positive social impact for many people, and actually the experience of this hospital attending the population of the area was absolutely positive. But there might be people affected by your initiative positively or negatively. And if they're negatively affected, your initiative can harm them. So we are back to the title of to the original title of this presentation. In the humanitarian sector, we say that even before bringing assistance to a community, even before helping a community in need, we need to be sure that with our intervention, we do not harm this community. So this is the principle of do not harm. And before being able to do good, to provoke a social impact with your initiative, with your business, you have to be sure that you do not harm the very same population you want to target. And how do you do that? Well, the main way to do that is look beyond your target. When you start your business, when you start your impact-driven business, you have your target very specific, and you design your customer segment. And we know that more detailed, more specific is your segmentation, is your targeting and your positioning, more chances you have to be successful in your business and in your initiative. And this is all good. I don't want to, I obviously do not criticize this, but when it comes to social impact, we need to go beyond this. This is not sufficient anymore, because as we say, there might be people that they are left behind, that they are not considered. And you probably think around now that, yeah, okay, great idea, Enrica, but we will never be able to include in our project all the possible people that might be affected by our initiative. And just we can't, because otherwise we have to rethink everything, and we will not be as effective as we want to be. And this is true, you're perfectly right, in the sense that not also NGOs or international organizations, they cannot include everybody in their project and in their intervention. There is always somebody left behind. What is the difference? The difference is that you have to know who is left behind. And to do that, you have to do what I call a social stakeholder map. You are used to do stakeholder map for many of the things you are focusing on during your business plan. You're used to do stakeholder map for your competitors, for your allies, for to understand the environment you operate in. But sometimes many people forget to do a stakeholder map, forget to map the social stakeholders. So the people can be in some way affected by the initiative. And mapping those people is extremely important because first, as I said, you need to be sure that there is not some specific community that might be negatively affected by your initiative. Like, for instance, the nomadic community I was talking about earlier. And secondly, because at a certain point, you might want to scale up your business. So if you want to broaden the scope of your business, broaden your target population, you need to know what are the community that are in your sphere of influence. And it's much better to know them from the beginning than to find out later on who are the potential new target for your business. If you know your entire social stakeholder map from the beginning, then you will be able to scale up more effectively, more sustainably, and also in a more coherent way. So this is once again a change of perspective that I would like you to think about when you think about your project. We are not focusing only on the result because, as I said, the result was good. The hospital opened an facility, had a positive social impact, but we focus on the project. If there is somebody left behind during this process, then we need to reconsider. Then we have to adapt our way to create a social positive impact, either to include this community or this group of people or those people excluded, or to reduce the and mitigate the negative impact that our initiative can have on those group of people. So I hope this is already helping you understanding what do I mean when I talk about switch the focus from the result, from the impact to the process, to how we get there. And how you, to doing good, to having a positive social impact, you need to go step by step. You need to assess the needs of the population. You need to understand if you left somebody behind. And moving forward to the third point I would like to make with you today, you also need to understand how the environments change. Once again, let me ask you a question before starting. Have you how many times you had to readjust your business plan, readjust your objective because the situation had changed, because there was a change in the external environment, economic, social, etc. And I'm not talking only about the past 3 months, because the past 3-4 months have been crazy for everybody. So regardless COVID time, how many times or how often you had to readjust your business plan and your business because situation has changed? Every 5 minutes? Yeah, makes sense. One time, okay. Somebody else? Yeah, thousands of times. Okay, so you're already familiar with it. Yeah, every 5 years. Lot of testing, yeah. We launch a new project. Yeah. And Daniela, you never had to readjust your mission or vision. Was most the plan, the way to get there, right? If I get it right. Okay, I see. So this is exactly what I want to focus on in this last point. I wanted to bring to your attention. And I will start once again telling you a story that I had, well, an experience that I had when I was working in the field as a researcher. This time I would like to talk to you about refugees, and refugees and displaced people, migrants and displaced people. And actually we can afterwards, during the Q&A section, we can also discuss about how many initiative, like social business initiative, have been taken, for instance, in Europe during the migration crisis, and how refugees or migrants have in some way gathered quite a lot of attention in terms of social-driven initiative in the past few years. Well, before COVID, I'm still talking about a different era, but as the problem was finally mediatized quite a lot, then there was quite a lot of new business and new initiative created to socially and positively support migrants and refugees in their way. But we will get to that later, because it's a quite interesting example about both needs assessment and unintended impact. But let's focus now on the story I want to share with you. So when people are internally displaced somewhere because of conflict, because of violence, they might live in camps, in shelters for a few years. But most of the time, at least when they do not go too far from the original place, from their villages, their wish is to go back home. So usually as soon as the peak of the conflict is over, international organization or government, they do draft a return and reintegration plan for refugees, for internally displaced, depending on the situation. They do it for different reasons, but nobody, not the international community, either the government want this exceptional situation, camp setting, refugee or internally displaced people in camp settings, become the normalcy. So they want them to be back as soon as there are the conditions for them to be back voluntarily, of course. So the problem is that most of the time there is not such a thing like wartime and peacetime. Most of the time there is a peak of a conflict, then the situation gets a little bit more stable, and with still some episodes of violence and conflict. So we are most of the time in a conflict-affected country and affected since a long time in this time that has been called by some anthropologists no peace, no war time. So there is still instability, but the situation gets better. So as there is not a stable environment, it's very possible that the return and reintegration plan that was drafted for refugees or for internally displaced people today, in 3 months' time, will be already out of date. What's the reflection we should make here? The point is that a return plan for displaced people by itself provoke a positive impact because it allocates resources, it allocates efforts, attention, and tools to make people return safely at home, to rebuild their houses, to make a fresh start in terms of employment activities, etc. But if the plan is not readapted, if you stuck to a specific plan and you don't adjust it to the different situation you might find, to the change of environment, the positive impact you want to have is not as good as you planned at the beginning. And once again, you lose something along the way, and your plan might be completely worthless because the positive impact for people, for displaced people, might be quite irrelevant if they're not the condition. And when thinking about the condition, I'm thinking about renewal of the conflict, changing of the dynamics, tension with other communities, whatever kind of problem you might think about. This was quite an exceptional situation, and this is why I give you an example about conflict countries. But now with the pandemic has become something we got more used to think about, how there can be a sudden change in the environment, in our plan, how we can and we have to readapt quickly all our activities, and we all actually experience this with smart work and with Zoom calls and all this kind of thing that change completely our habits. But till only 6 months ago, these big changes of the environment were not so, were more difficult to consider. And actually, the point I would like to make here, and the reflection that I would like you to make, is also about these big changes of the environment, but not only. The most important point you should always ask yourself, and not only about your business and about your main activity, but especially about social activity and social initiative, is that if we are going in the right direction. this is as important for your business than for your social activity. And actually, I would say that for social initiative, it's even more important. And this is why your focus when you want to do something, so it's a positive social impact on people or on a group of people, your focus is on human being, is on person, and people are not stuck in space and time. People move, people change, people readapt to the situation. Imagine the refugees or the displaced people we were talking about. If there is some kind of stability, they might want to reach again their houses. Otherwise, they might decide to stay in another country or to move to another country or to rebuild their life somewhere else. They might change completely their decision in a week's time if something happens. And maybe their perception of the situation change. So your social initiative should be able to reflect those changes. And this is extremely important when you consider your social initiative and when you focus on the process that brings you to have a positive social impact. You should learn how to navigate volatile environments. And we all more or less learn that in the past few months. But even if we think that now we are more used to this kind of analysis, I think it's still important to think about social initiative not in a static way, but with a dynamic approach. And by that, I mean that your human rights due diligence that you should do at the beginning of your business, or when you already started your business, or when you decide to launch your social initiative. And when I say that, I'm talking about any kind of business. You might want to start a social driven project, but you might want to focus your core business in complete different things, and wanted to have anyway a positive impact, or want to reinvest your profit in some social initiative. So regardless the nature of your business, the human rights due diligence you should keep in mind, and you should do during your business should not be something static, should be something extremely dynamic. So this is why I'm talking about a continuous human rights due diligence. We should stop thinking about human rights due diligence only as a checklist, a list of human rights, a list of the 48 human rights that we should respect with our business, the rights included in the International Bill of Human Rights, according to the United Nations Guiding Principles, etc. It's not a checklist, it's a process that you have to integrate in both your business or your social initiative. And it's something that should be constant, that can be provoked by big changes in the environment, like the renewal of the conflict in some country or the COVID pandemic in other countries. But must be something that should be integrated, should be part of your constant reflection about the business. And I'm saying that because if you don't do that, you might lose the positive impact that you want to provoke. Maybe you don't notice because you get some positive social impact anyway. Think to the displaced people. A return plan will help anyway some of the families that have been displaced, but you will not have the full and exhaustive social impact you want to achieve if you don't readjust constantly your human rights focus in your business, in your social initiative. So once again, the focus should really be on the process, on how we get to social impact, and not only on the final results. And this is, as we say, is important from the need assessment to the evaluation of the unintended impact you can provoke to this dynamic approach in terms of human rights. Stop thinking about social certification that, human rights certification that certify that your activity is good. This is a picture of your activity in a specific moment, in a specific time and place, but things changes and people changes. And if you really want to put people at the center of the social activities, the social initiative we want to launch, we want to run, then we have to switch. We have to make a switch. So this is basically the three main points I wanted to highlight and to make you think about when we change our approach from a focus on the results to a focus on the process, and when you think about the way to get to a positive social impact. And I'm aware of the time, so I just would like to ask you if all this makes sense to you. And well, if you have any question, of course, but also if you had any experience on focusing on the process, on this change that I would like to suggest. Stop focusing only on the final result, but focusing more on the process, on the needs assessment, on the potentially negative effect that you can have with your activity, and on the dynamic adaptation of your social initiative to the change of the environment you have. So if you have any questions, I will be more than happy to listen to. You can open also your mic and we can listen to your experience. Nobody? Okay, in rural Colombia. You want to share your experience, Daniela? You want to open your mic and share your experience? What are you focusing on?
Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
Hear you well.
Hello, Enrica and everybody. Well, I work in Colombia in rural area, but actually not that rural. It's only like maybe 1 hour away from the city, but it's like an area that was very, very affected by conflict. And we work mainly with women in projects for economic sustainability, right? But now that we know that the conflict is coming back and things are going to get a bit more complicated, we have not experience with that, because when we start working was exactly when the peace agreements happened. So I was wondering if maybe you could give us some hints in what things we should mind in order to keep doing our work now that the environment is changing considerably. That was it.
Yeah, I would say that the fact that environment change makes you think again about your first need assessment. So the first thing you should reassess when the environment changes are exactly your needs. So restarting evaluating the fact that the needs that you are targeting, the human problem that we were talking about, because perhaps the women that you wanted to target at the beginning, when you start your project and the peace agreement just started, they are now complete different needs, and they are focusing in complete different things. I don't know, I can just guess, but perhaps when the peace process started, women or in general the population wanted to focus on making a fresh start, starting a business, etc. If you feel that the conflict is coming back, the first thing you want to do is just make you and your family safe. So, but that's, I mean, that's an intuition. That's just something. This is just what experience has shown me. But the best point, the best way to get the needs of the people you want to assist, as I said, is asking them and listen to them and make a sample as big as possible of women telling. Explaining to you their problems and their concerns and their expectations. And just do that, as I said before, without focusing on a specific group of people, or without, just make your sample as big as possible. Just try to listen to them, and try to let women or whatever other kind of vulnerable people talk about whatever they feel like to talk, in the sense that don't try to address the question, don't try to let them focus on some specific needs, because then you will limit your chances to really listen to them. And your question in some way would be already biases. So just keep your question and talk to those women or to whatever people you want to assist in the most like open and way you can, and this will help you to reassess your needs, and then to make also your project, your initiative more adapted. And then in terms of human rights due diligence, you might want to see in terms of if the environment changes, how you want to reassess the priority in terms of human rights externally, like for in the environment you work, but also internally, like the condition of the people working with you. I mean, for instance, I guess you work with communities, etc. So you don't want to expose them to a renewal of the conflict. You want to guarantee the people working with you good labor condition, etc., etc. So this also will help you to readapt your process and your project. Sorry. I hope I answered, Daniela. Waiting for another question that I'm sure will come. Thanks to you. I just wanted to briefly mention the experience of the migration crisis here in Europe. Well, in Europe and in Central America as well, and has been affecting quite a few countries in the past few years. But this actually, I think, is a very interesting experience to share, because there's been many social impact initiatives to support migrants and refugees all along the way to get to Europe, or to get to the US, for instance, in Central America, to get to their country of destination. And once they get there, to help them in terms of social, economic, etc. activities. And this is a good example, because at a certain point, I remember I did participate to an hackathon like 5 or 6 years ago to try to help, to try to create a platform to help migrants and refugees. And there was this boom of people who wanted to help, who wanted to be there for them. And most of the platform of the apps, of the different tools that have been created at that time, with a huge investment in terms of energy, in terms of resources, they have been used for maybe 1 year or maybe even less. And not because they were not good tools. They were a very good initiative and very good project, and they were created after a good reflection and a good process. But sometimes they missed the process, they missed the different step that I was trying to explain you. For instance, the needs. Already assessing the needs of vulnerable population, like women. Then Daniela was talking about conflict area in Colombia, but if we want to talk, if you want to talk about, if we are talking about vulnerable women in urban area or in rural areas, in European country or other country, we don't need to go to conflict area. So my examples were coming from conflict area just because most of my experience was there. But if you want to assess the needs of some population, as we said, there is already quite a process to set. If you want to assess the needs of people on move, like migrants, like refugees, it's even more difficult. And this is why you should invest even more time on doing that. And sometimes it was just not possible. So people were just thinking what the refugees or migrants might need and create their initiative, their platform, etc. about that. I don't know, support to learn, support with administration procedure, get in touch with their relatives, these kind of things. So sometimes the platform, sometimes the apps were just not adapted, and the real needs, sometimes they were not covered because there was the need assessment I was talking about was too difficult or too complicated or just was not done. And this created at certain point, or might create even now, some kind of unintended impact. Because imagine how many data of personal data of refugees, of migrants, all the different applications or the different platform or website that have been created during the crisis and till at least till COVID time have generated. If you want, and all those data are still in the cloud, are still somewhere in the internet space. So at the end, this, especially for vulnerable people fleeing from conflict, escaping from conflict, might even affect them, might be hacked and used for very bad things. So when you plan your project, when you plan your platform, you have to plan on a long term and readapt perhaps. If you see that your platform or migrant is not useful anymore, readapt it, or at least be sure that that does not create negative impact. And as I see that we have only 2 minutes, I just wanted to share the conclusion with you very quickly. And the conclusion were just about the fact that, as I said during this presentation, what we would like to achieve with our project is doing good. And to do good, we should be sure to do not harm people, to assess their needs, and to constantly readapt. And this is something, and this is the 3 things that I really would like you to take home today. You have plenty of tools to assess the impact, to measure it, to certify it, to compare it, etc. So let's focus not only on the final impact, but let's focus on the process. So let's move on this perspective from the result-centered approach that I think is prevalent today to a people-centered approach. So people, as I think I repeated thousands of times during this presentation, people are the center of everything. People are the one you should take into consideration when you do your need assessment. Talk to people is the first thing you should do when you start having an idea of an impact-driven project. People are the one you have to consider when you try to not harm them. And finally, people they're the one you have to consider when you change your idea and your plan. So I think I will leave it here because it's 6. Alex is looking at me. I hope it was useful, and I hope I managed to share with you some of my experience. And of course, if you are in the Bridge for Billions plan, I will be more than happy to work with you. If you are not, apply for it. And otherwise, you have my contacts and my LinkedIn and all my contacts to reach me. Thank you so much for joining us.
Signed up for the meeting. We will share the recording, so you have there also the Enrica's contact. Thank you so much, Enrica. I was actually thinking a lot about things that we do in Bridge. We were always thinking, maybe I'm selling this product to a client, for example, when we work with business partners, but because my platform is online, is actually causing them more harm in their activity or to the people that work there or to their beneficiaries than actually good. And with partners, and we're always having this conversation. So I was revisiting a lot of them while you were sharing this. So I think it's very helpful. And I invite all of you to use this when you think about your customer segments, just as you said, about your clients, about the people you want to target. It can be used to excel in social impact, but also to make sure that you're actually addressing your offerings to your clients correctly too.
Exactly.
It's very exciting. Thank you so much for sharing it.
Thank you, Alex.
Appreciate. I hope it was useful for everyone. Do share your feedback around in the community. You have the event to do that. So, and I hope it was useful and that you have an amazing end of evening or whatever you are in the world the rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.